Do you want to take us for a deeper dive demo, and maybe we start with immersive meetings and what that looks like?
Yeah, well, I'll share my screen here and I'll drop us in from our website. So it's similar
While
to what
Russ is
someone might
sharing
see.
his screen, I'll point out that you can go to SuperViz.com is the main website, SuperViz.com. And for the SDK, SuperViz.com/SDK.
All right, has my screen come up there? Okay, great. So I've just come to our website. So this is what you would see as you're coming to SuperViz, and you'll see very quickly it sort of divides into these two options. The instant meeting is what we talked about in the other episode. So if you're just an end user of Matterport, or you have the models, you can go in here, create a subscription, and go in and start meetings. What we're talking about today is what we recently launched, which is the SDK. So now the SDK, like I mentioned, allows you to bring this functionality to any tool that you have. So you can go through here and take a look at our documentation, which Tommy will get into in a bit. We make it really easy to do. Here are the features we quickly talked about, the immersive meetings, the plugins. Now, what the plugins, think of it as we have the base SDK that takes care of this whole concept of video conferencing, synchronizing positions inside a 3D space. And the plugins are just to make it really easy for the most popular use cases. So we have a Matterport plugin, which means out of the box, it already works with Matterport SDK if that's what you're using. We have a 3JS plugin. So if you want to go ahead and work with anything that is using 3JS, and we're going to have many other plugins coming down the line. We have the Forge plugin that's about to be released as well. And over time, we'll be adding other different plugins. And sometimes we just have to add examples as opposed to plugins because it's a custom development. We have examples being built out right now with the Unreal Engine doing pixel streaming. How could you turn that experience into a multi-person experience? Another interesting thing we have is what we call the real-time data properties. Now, if you think of SuperViz, what we're doing is we have the synchronization layer running in a meeting, which similar to say in this meeting, it synchronizes like windows and share screens and mics and so on. But in SuperViz, we take it to another level because we're synchronizing coordinates of everyone inside the space. We're synchronizing what they're looking at. We're synchronizing projects that are changing. So what we've done is we've exposed that synchronization engine to the developer where they can use that now to synchronize any property throughout the meeting. So if you have a custom application and say you want to synchronize, say you have an application for doing interior design, you want to change the color of a carpet. So you could use our synchronization engine. So if the host goes and changes the carpet color, you just tell our engine and then it automatically syncs it to everyone in the meeting. So it just keeps everyone in sync. That becomes really powerful. So people can sync pretty much any property amongst anyone inside the meeting. We've exposed that. Avatars, we've integrated with Ready Player Me for the defaults, but you can also add any avatars that you'd like inside of this. We really make it open. The dashboard is really cool because that's where you go. As a developer, you can see all the meetings happening on your platform, which customers are having, how many minutes, limit people, know how to build them. Because what happens if you think of what we're doing here is we're turning SuperViz, instead of an individual subscription for people to run meetings, we're turning it as a web service for another company to integrate into their tool. So at that point, we're charging for participation minutes per person in a meeting. So how the customers end up charging their customers is up to them. And the dashboard is really useful for that because that's where they can see exactly who's using how many minutes and so on. It's the back end view into this engine of how people are using your application.